Welcome, listeners. I'm so excited that you're here today because I have Mitch Webb, and he is a nervous system and holistic health coach. And you're probably going, why is someone like this on doing divorce different? And it's because, most importantly, I just am super interested in this kind of work. And all of my listeners know that I want you to feel better after your divorce. So there's probably no better time to like make some changes and to grow and to learn. So, Mitch, I don't know that I've ever really had someone like you on. So, thank you so much for being here. He's fighting a little cold and he still came. So, welcome, Mitch. And I do know too, I don't know you that well, but I know you've got a story that led you to do this work. And I always like to start so my listeners can get to know you. Would you mind just sharing a little bit about what led you to do this work?
Yeah, sure. Lisa, good to be here with you. Thanks for having me. And yeah, excited to jump into this despite the cold. Um, like I was telling you before we got on, I've been cooped up for 3 or 4 days, and this has been the shining light in my week.
Good.
So
Good.
it's good to be here with you. But yeah, I mean, my journey started with anxiety. I experienced that after some head injuries where I fell out of a second story window, had a traumatic brain injury, and had this thing called anxiety that I didn't even know what that word was. And the hits kept coming. I lived in a house that had black mold in it. I developed Lyme disease. I had heavy metals. I was borderline diabetic, and that was the first wake up call that I need to change some things. And I went from being in corporate sales in the corporate world, working with like cigarette companies and a lot of different corporate companies that you would recognize, and realizing that I had to make some changes. And so at first it was, nutrition and getting back into exercise. And I found my way to functional medicine where we found the mold and the Lyme, the heavy metals. We worked on reversing that through diet. And then I left the corporate world, fell in love with health and wellness. I've always been the person that kind of shared what I learned. Everything always felt like there was a lot of information and really confusing, and I like to make things simple. Um, and so I'm leaving the corporate world. I go see one of my first clients, and I get hit by a dump truck on the way to my call. And so another traumatic brain injury. Spent a year in post concussion recovery. What is that? I'm blanking on the word, but post concussion recovery basically meant I went from the best shape of my life till I couldn't walk for more than 15 minutes without collapsing for a couple of weeks. After that, when I healed from that, a year, I got long haul COVID 3 times in a row. So for 3 years, I had long haul COVID. I went from about 190 down to 140 pounds. I couldn't eat. My gut was destroyed. Had anxiety so much that I couldn't sleep, and fatigue that I couldn't get out of bed. So it was really interesting. I found my way into spiritual healing and mindset, and eventually found the nervous system, and that's when everything was like, oh, now I get this. All of these uh, big issues that I went through, I feel like now we're trying to get my attention to look at the dysregulation and the trauma that I experienced in childhood, which was really hard to see because my parents didn't beat me.
Mhm.
They paid for college and put a roof over my head and fed me 3 meals a day, and that's a really good distraction for not being there emotionally. And so I went through life as a child not knowing what safety felt like. And now these last couple years, working with the nervous system, that's been my whole goal. And I tend to work with people in the same boat because their nervous system is sensitized, meaning there's the whole world has turned into hypervigilance. They're trying to fix things and figure them out with all the things that I learned, right? When we don't think that we're good enough, we take on these trauma roles, these protective parts to stay in connection, to be loved. That's things like people pleasing and perfectionism, all or nothing, and living in our head instead of being in our body, because there's so much going on in the body that our body is protecting us from that intensity. And the work I do is teaching people to reconnect with their body, to be able to listen to that, to respond to that, and that way and express the emotions that didn't get to be expressed. And through this journey, we become our own medicine.
Okay, wow. That was way more than I ever expected. And Mitch, I've got to ask you, don't you think, like you're saying, you're speaking my language because I have anxiety. I, grew up with great parents, and that, I think sometimes trauma can come when when they don't even realize it and we don't even realize it, right? Or maybe I don't even really know what caused it, but I know that I have anxiety. I know that I'm a people pleaser. I know that I'm a high achiever. And I knew that I wasn't feeling good. And I also did your route where I had a functional assessment doctor, and I like white knuckled it. Like, I can do this, intermittent fasting and running marathons and doing but they did tell me too that having a glass of wine at night was good for you, which was a lie. That was a lie. It's not good for you. But it all kind of hit the fan, so to say, when it was actually like 2 years ago to this day that they caught stage 1 breast cancer in me. And it rocked my world because I am an anxious person and health was always an anxiety. And I thought I could control it. And so, and I was like a life coach. I had this mindset. I had all the tools that I needed. And I had to go, what the hell is going on? Like, what is happening here? And I like had to just step back and be still through everything that I had. I mean, I never felt sick. I did great through everything, but it was a lot. I had to go through a lot to get through that, even though it was just teeny tiny little stage 1. But what I realized in those moments is that I needed that stillness. And then I started looking at my life and I was like, I had to like kind of surrender, right? Like, I can't control everything. This life is a gift. Like, I can't white knuckle it and think that I've got this all under control. That was another thing that I learned. And then I also saw, like, where was the joy? Where was the fun? There's some, I mean, I got horses over there, but it just was such a big realization. And so now, I did I did after all of this happened, I did the big genetic test. I went through all kinds of health stuff again. And then I'm like, everything is good except my stress.
Yeah.
And so I did a big like AI. It's like, why is my stress high, even if I don't feel like it? And one thing that I learned is that maybe intermittent fasting isn't good for a gal my age, right? I'm 58 years old, probably raises that cortisol a little bit. I've been lifting a lot, increasing my protein, trying to have that more throughout the day. I've done like crazy neuro-linguistic programming, brain spotting, because I want to feel good. Don't we all? Like, I don't want to have anxiety. And I know how to work with it through my mindset. And yes, that helps. But when something big happens and you spin out, what do? So there you go. Blah. Heal me.
Well, it sounds like you're doing it. Congratulations. It sounds like the cancer is better now. Is that right?
Oh, it's cured. It's cured. Yes.
Yeah. Congratulations on that. That's awesome.
Thank you.
Where do I start? Here's where I'm going to go with this. We're similar in this. We're twins here in the fact that we did everything right. We tried everything and it didn't work. Okay, because the nervous system controls everything. It's kind of like the operating system of the entire body. It controls all the systems from hormones to stress to circulation. You name it. And when we have a lot of stress that we've avoided, that we've pushed down, that we've tried to fix, that we're not aware of yet, the body's just trying to protect us. And it's went into these protector roles in a very intelligent way. And so, number one, we want to honor that and look at what our body has done for us. And it's recognizing the contrast between where we're at now and where we want to be. And so recognizing that, hey, I don't feel good. And what that comes down to is just dysregulation. Dysregulation means that it doesn't mean that we're broken. It means that our body is responding perfectly to the environments that we've been in. I used to think about trauma from like a male perspective, where we want to like get it out. And I don't like that anymore, because it tells us that something's wrong. wrong, that it's bad. It's not that there's something bad in our body that we got to get out. Our body has shaped from the environments that we've spent time in, and we take on these roles so that we can stay in connection, right? So that we can be seen, so that we can be loved. And we think we are these parts until we get an illness. And I would say, thank God for that, because our triggers, our symptoms, they are trying to get our attention, but we are taught that they are bad. And so we try to fix them. We try to put band-aids on them. We want to take a pill, but all they want to do is express symptoms are emotions that weren't allowed. So as a guy, I can really easily go to, hey, we're allowed to be pissed off and that's about it. If I'm going to grieve or I'm going to be, feel anything other than anger, that I'm going to be shamed, right? And so it's slowing down and meeting the parts of us that we said weren't allowed, letting out the emotions that we learn to suppress to stay in connection with others. And here's another thing, is that we learn that we want to feel good. When our life is about feeling good, symptoms are bad. And so we try to do everything in our power to fix them, from exercise to food to alcohol to drugs to relationships, whatever that may be. And but it's so interesting, when we have trauma, our body takes us to the environments and places that are going to repeat so that we can complete the stress that didn't get to express when we were a kid, right? So that's why we see ourselves, I'm on a divorce podcast, that's why we see ourselves in relationships that aren't in alignment, that are like our parents or the teacher or the coach that we had. Our body isn't guiding us to a shitty experience. It's taking us to be healed so that we can meet it differently, so that we can set our boundaries, so that we can communicate, so that we can say no, that we can fight or we can walk away, to complete that charge that's stuck in our body, causing all of the symptoms that we're dealing with now.
Okay. So I'm going to I'm kind of going to get free coaching from you.
Yeah, we're going to do that.
I'm thinking about this, and I'm like, well, and I want you to know too, my stress, like I get it from my aura ring. I don't even feel it all the time. Sometimes I think I have the greatest day, or I was chill today. And then I'm like, what? Why do I have stress? But then also I notice that I will wake up in the morning very often with a huge amount of anxiety.
Yeah.
Which before I would just be like, why am I anxious? I get mad at myself about it. So this is a new thing where I just tried to go, okay, it's okay. You just feel anxious. But I am a fixer. How do I fix this? And I did like a core wounds course, and I went back and tried to find trauma, you know what I mean? And deal with it. I've done a lot of stuff like that, but it's still there. And I don't want the stress anymore.
Yeah. So that's leading to sensitization. So the nervous system is flooded with adrenaline because we've been constantly trying to figure out and fix what's wrong with us.
Yes.
That is what left me with a lot of anxiety as well. I thought my superpower was fixing other people. And if you had a problem, you came to me and I will fix that thing. And I think guys go into that role really easy. But what that tells my nervous system is there's a threat that I can't make go away, and I can't figure out why it's here. And so everything becomes a threat. Our world gets small. We're avoiding this food. We start to avoid the things that we love. I've started to blame whatever I did 24 hours before, whether that was a supplement, a food, a workout, a person. And my world got really small. And eventually, when the nervous system spends a lot of time in high activation that we would call like anxiety, eventually the e-brake comes on, and that's where you hear freeze. That is high tone dorsal, which is basically just a shutdown state. And so most of us are walking around in this high tone dorsal. You could also call it functional freeze, meaning our body is protecting us. That's why we don't feel anything, and why your ring will notice it before you do. It's because our body is intelligently keeping that out of our awareness, because what's underneath that is still that sympathetic charge. It's just our body couldn't maintain that level of activation without spinning out. And so the body goes, we got to stop. We got to shut down. And then we live in this false window of tolerance that is actually numbing us out, that is called functional freeze. And so we're being protected. And so the interesting thing too is when we slow down and we start to work with this, we do this by paying attention to our body, following our impulse, and we start with responding to bodily sensations. Like I need to pee and I'm going to go to the bathroom. I need to eat and I'm hungry. I want to drink water and I'm going to drink water. Eventually that goes into, when you start responding to the body and giving it what it needs, it gives you more. So then you find yourself going, I don't like this person. I don't want to go out with them tonight. Or this place doesn't feel safe. I'm going to leave. Or I'm tired. I need to rest. And that is bringing up this iceberg of emotions and old situations that we've avoided to stay safe. And typically what happens is we feel more activation, more anxiety, more emotions other than kind of flat and disconnected, because we're reconnecting with the body and working with the brain. We work with the beliefs just as much as we work with what's living in the body. The two can't be separate. And eventually we start to meet that part of us that gets mad when we have anxiety, right? Where did we learn that? That right there, just having anger at the anxiety, I was the same way. When I went to therapy for the first time, the lady goes, hey, why are you here? Like, let's set a goal for this. And I want to get rid of this fucking anxiety. And she said, that's not going to work. Anxiety is a really good thing. It's a great thing that our body is giving us information. We've just learned to not respond to it, to shame it, to fix it, to make it go away, that it's bad. It's really just, there's no good or bad. It's just information. And so eventually I had to learn, I want to feel safe expressing myself authentically and be around people and places that make me celebrate that. And eventually I saw that wasn't happening in my family. Whenever I was myself around my friends and people that I work with, it was cool. But when I was with my family, I would shut down and I'd feel this grossness and all my symptoms would kick up. And it's not here to say like, hey, the parents are the thing. That's just the environment where these wounds were created. And that's why we want to go really slow and get curious and have compassion for these parts of ourselves that just want to be a part of our life instead of being told they don't belong.
Okay. Let them be a part of your life.
And here I want to finish something else too, because you're talking about anxiety. What you're doing now is the medicine. The way that we work through anxiety is to accept it and allow it, to see that fixing and figuring it out is what keeps us stuck, that accepting it and allowing it, that living your life and doing it with the fatigue, with the anxiety, with the fear, that's what teaches our nervous system and our brain that it's safe to do these things again. So we don't heal by getting education or by even going to therapy and working on the emotions. We heal by doing life again and showing our brain by creating a new experience, not through force and pressure. The more we do that, hey, you got to change, you need to suck it up and not be a little bitch or whatever that internal dialogue is, the more the nervous system feels that. And it's like, okay, then I'm going to protect you more because this isn't safe.
Okay, that is so key. And it's interesting how that just came to me, where I was like, why am I judging this?
Yeah.
Right.
Well, once you can see it, you don't have to be it. It's all about awareness. So that's a really good catch.
So, and it sounds like it's going to take time.
Yes. And things happen quickly too. Our job is to believe. We have to have education about this in the beginning. We have to understand our physiology. We have to understand how our brain works, how our nervous system works with trauma. We have to believe that healing is possible. And that's the education phase. So we have to understand why my amygdala is constantly scanning for stress. We have to understand, why do I shame myself when I start overthinking? Well, the amygdala is right next to the part of the brain that shames us, right? And so that's a protective thing. We have to map our compulsions. Because ultimately what biohacking and fixing is OCD. It's compulsively trying to fix ourselves.
That's what
it's very intelligent, right? I'm
Uh-huh.
sure me and you could open up our supplement cabinets and we got everything.
Oh
Right?
gosh.
I got a vibration platform. I got a red light. I got a sauna over here.
I got a red light. I got a sauna.
Yeah. Not to say those things are bad, but when we use those things to shut down how we're feeling, to change how we're feeling, to heal, we're
Mhm.
saying, brain and nervous system, you don't know anything. I know better, and I'm going to fix you, and you better do it right now.
Okay.
And so we have to see our patterns and slowly let out the emotion when we see that. Man, I can see that I've been trying to fix myself for 30 years. What's that
Yeah.
man, there's a lot of emotion there. There's grief and there's anger and there's
Yeah.
sadness. And, that's all healing. That's good. We want that stuff to come through. That's our life force energy being blocked.
All
We're
right.
saying you're not allowed. And you don't want all that life force energy flying through in one session. But when
Right.
you can start to map these patterns, it kind of starts like one day you see yourself in the pattern after. The next day you pull up to the stop sign. Oh, no, next time you see yourself in it while it's happening. And then another time you pull up to the stop sign, you wave, and you keep driving. Not that you're telling us this part is now in the driver's seat with you, because that's your authentic self, not this perfection, pressurized, all or nothing, people pleasing self that we came up with. That's not us. That's a survival response.
Right.
We meet our authenticity through this work, and we give ourselves permission to be us, and we express all the emotions that have been very understandably wanting to be felt through this process.
Okay. I have to ask you a question, and
Yeah.
I think this is interesting too. So I usually help women, I mean, help couples divorce together through mediation, which is an amazing process. And then I help women by coaching them. And just yesterday, I had a man who wanted me to coach him, and I was chatting with them. And sadly, there's abuse. And it's a really hard thing for a guy to talk about.
Yeah.
And then I just today reached out to someone who works with men who have gone through this. And so we might be talking again in the future because I think you could be helpful. And I don't know if we have enough time to really get into this, but for this particular person, or man or woman, when you have children and you're divorced, you still have to be connected to that other parent. Now, we can set up really good ways if it's really bad to only do it through certain apps. And you know what I mean? But there's still like a connection. So
Mhm.
say you're with somebody who has an anger issue and you love them and you don't want to leave them, but how do you protect yourself in these situations when you have to deal with people who are putting you on high alert, bringing your anxiety up, probably from the past? I don't know, maybe from something they've done. What do you do in those moments when there's kind of someone else triggering it?
Well, the first thing I'd say is number one, nobody can make us feel anything.
I know.
It's more about the wounds that are being triggered in that environment.
Okay.
That's very real. I'll also say, I don't have kids and I am married, but where I can relate to this is with my parents. So after a year of like CBT, DBT, that's not what I do now, but that kind of creates awareness. I learned, man, my early childhood stuff really did a number on me, right? And I need to work through this. And so I tried to bring that up to my parents, and it was met with dismiss and react, and which is understandable. They weren't ready to see that. They didn't want to feel like they were the problem, and nor did I want that at all. I was really wanting to go like, hey, here's what I'm feeling. When I get around you and I try to be myself, I can't, I get sick for like 2 weeks afterwards, and I'm doing really good here. And it just revealed the lack of connection, the lack of openness and attunement, you would call that, in my early relationship with them. And it got to the point where I cut them off. Called going no contact. And I just said, hey, I need time and space, and I need to heal and work on me. And right now, I can't deal with you guys. And they didn't understand boundaries and didn't want to hear me. And so I eventually had to cut them off with my cell phone. Like I had to block their numbers. Hadn't seen them in 3 years. Now, oddly enough, today I got a letter from my dad, and we're going to repair things, and it's going to be good, which is awesome. But I needed that time. You could say, Mitch, you're an asshole, or you're not supposed to do that to your parents. But with all the healing work that I've done, it was me or it was live or die, you know. And if
Mhm.
and if I've got to cut someone, I mean, with this, when you do this work and you start expressing yourself authentically, some people are going to love that, and other people are not going to be down with that version because they're used to the old version. And you're going
Mhm.
to know who your friends are, and you're going to end relationships. Maybe you don't have to, but that's what I've experienced, what so many of my clients have. And are we willing to meet ourselves? Right? Are we going to choose ourselves, or are we going to choose somebody else? And I chose to choose myself. And after 3.5 years of this, I got the letter that I never expected. Now, I didn't need that. I certainly craved that and wanted it. I wanted that relationship, but I didn't want to be in a place right now that would affect all this work that I've done. It didn't feel like that was appropriate for myself or loving to myself. And so I chose me, and it seems like it's working out. I'm super, super excited about it. But those are difficult decisions, and things that we have to see when we're not wearing the ruby red glasses. And when we take those off and we meet ourselves and the people around us, we get the opportunities to choose ourselves. And that choosing us is a huge healing part. Instead of abandoning ourselves to stay in connection and taking on these roles that drain our life force energy and exacerbate our symptoms.
Right. So I guess for these people who are parenting together with someone who's either wounded them through abuse or from old wounds, probably the thing to remember from what I'm hearing from you is to take care of yourself.
Yeah.
And yeah, they have to be in some kind of communication, but to do your best to set it up so that it's safe.
Yeah.
And then to realistically look at it and to love themselves,
Yeah.
because what you're saying is they're the ones making themselves feel the way that they do. Not, and this isn't like if someone's like,
Well, those wounds, they're not necessarily that. When I hear that, it sounds like I'm making myself the problem. It's more having
right,
passion and understanding that there are wounds and things that affected me so that it doesn't feel safe in certain environments. And if I can see that, then I would say in this situation, we got to be very clear on how we communicate, and we got to set strong boundaries. And we have to make sure that works for us, whether that's limited contact, no. I'm not telling anybody to go no contact. It's an extreme example, and that's
mhm,
the only option that I had in my situation. But I'm sure there's a million other, you name different apps, and maybe
right.
having a mediator, a third party there. But make sure that you feel safe. Can I actually? It's like we settle and we please the other person, but if not that they don't matter, but I matter and what I need matters, and can I communicate and feel safe in this interaction? And if I don't, then I got to rethink that.
I'm taking notes. I mean, this sounds like why a lot of people come and see me in the first place.
And here's another thing too. When we go through this process of healing our wounds, we are building capacity to be with the uncomfortable stuff that we've been unwilling to address. So now,
Yes.
3 years ago, I wouldn't have been able to get a letter back from my dad. I would have been so angry, but I've worked on my anger. I've worked on I remember thinking when I got the letter, I got this coming up and that coming up. I'll wait and read it afterwards because I don't want to shut down when I read it and feel like crap for a week or two. But now I have the capacity to go. I don't care what it says. It could piss me off. It could make me feel good. I could get what I want or I couldn't. But I'm going to meet myself no matter what, and I have the capacity to be with whatever happens next. And I'm not going to shut down.
Okay. I like that. And I think, and I'm watching the time is going so fast, but I think one of the big learning moments for me in chatting with you was you kind of kept bringing up. I mean, I was like, yeah, don't judge the anxiety. But then when I started talking about if I'm in a conversation with someone, I was calling it my wounds and making it bad about me. And there's so much shame in that. So that kind of opened my eyes.
It's sneaky. It's
It
unconscious,
is.
and like it's really hard to see. So it's cool to see that. And I always say, once you can see it, don't have to be it. That doesn't mean I wave a magic wand and it goes away. There's so much happens through awareness, and then changing our behavior the next time something happens. We heal through creating new experiences, so that our brain learns I can communicate, I can stand up for myself, I'm not gonna leave myself if I have certain emotions.
I love this. And sometimes it might mean walking away from someone,
For a
setting
period of
boundaries.
time, or
Yeah. Or
the
a minute,
people.
you know,
Yeah,
what it,
yeah, yeah,
yeah, right?
yeah, for sure.
All right. Okay. Mitch, if people want to work with you, I'm going to have all your information in my show notes. How do they find you?
I'm gonna give you a free link to put in the show notes for a 30-minute call with me, to
Yay.
see if we'd be a good fit. My website is mitchwebb.com. They can contact me there. I have my own podcast that's on YouTube and all podcast platforms called Rooted Conversations, and then I'm active on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and TikTok now.
Awesome. All
Yeah.
right. I so appreciate you. I appreciate the work that you're doing. Thank you for that. And for
Absolutely.
coming on, because a lot of people don't do it when they have a runny nose. And I know yours is worse than that.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate the opportunity to share.
It was just a pleasure to chat with you. Thanks, Mitch.
Uh-huh.